Hi, guys, and welcome back to the That's Where I'm At podcast. Today I have Barbara. Barbara is a certified life coach, yoga instructor, and writer who helps others find their path to joy and fulfilling life. Fulfilling living. She has devoted her time to unlearning what was holding her back and undoing the pain of her childhood trauma. It took over 5 years for her to follow the breadcrumbs, but with the help of coaches, therapists, self help books, spiritual tools, and her own intuition, she is now proud to be unsubscribed from all the things she doesn't want in life and making room for the things she does want in life. Welcome, Barbara. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you for having me, Laura. This is just a fantastic opportunity. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm glad you're here too because, man, it sounds like me. I did all those things: coaches, therapists, self help books. It's like, what is it? Yes, I'd like to try it
Mhm.
because we're a whole body, aren't we? We're not just our mind. So tell me a little bit about what made you unsubscribe from all the things you didn't want in life. Well, that takes a lot of courage and work, doesn't it?
Yeah, it sure does. And a lot of time to accomplish that work. So it all started with, the rock bottom moment we've all heard of before. It's a real thing. I was there, it happened to me. And it took me several years to figure out what had taken me to that place,
Yeah.
why I had let myself get to that place, the conditioning that had taken me that direction. And through just being curious over several years and kind of following the breadcrumbs and learning the next thing that I was curious about and going toward that, and then learning all about that, and then finding the next thing I was curious about and learning all about that, that is where I came to that idea that I need to just unsubscribe from these things that I don't want. Like, I was living my life based on other people's expectations of me, based on the conditioning I was raised with. And those things just didn't feel aligned with me. And it took me till I was, what was I, 37, 38 maybe, when
Wow.
I had that rock bottom moment till I figured it out. I'm 44 now. So it's taken years. And the whole reason I have the platform that I have is to help other women figure this out
Yeah.
a little quicker than I did
Right.
so that they don't suffer as long as I
Yes.
did.
I'm with you, sister. The same way. I'm looking 57 square in the face and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm so thankful that I'm doing the work now. But yes, I've had so many discussions on this podcast about living lives that we did not sign up for, as far as like you said, we were conditioned from an early age. This in society too, but also our families, especially if we had toxic families or we had something traumatic happen, your life starts going in a certain direction. So I just love that you decided, yeah, I don't want to do this in particular anymore. And can you encourage others? Because I know doing the work, how great it is, but can you encourage others? Did it feel really scary to you when you first started doing the work, saying, doing that curiosity thing? Love it. Love the curiosity thing. But I know because of the fruit. How did you feel at the beginning when you were starting to do that? Did you say this has got to be better than this?
Yeah, literally when you are at your rock bottom, there's nowhere to go but up.
Yeah.
And I just resigned myself to the belief that, well, I'm just going to try this and see what happens. What do I have to lose? And it was scary. And honestly, I mean, nobody likes to find those bad aspects of themselves. Nobody likes to uncover the less than pleasant things that the mistakes they've made in their lives, the avenues they've taken that they regret now. Nobody likes to look at themselves and say, well, I really fucked up.
Right.
Nobody wants to admit that.
Right.
We're used to covering up things like that with excuses or, just silent treatment or just pretending. So looking at yourself in a really deep way is hard work.
Yeah.
You've got to be willing and ready to take on that task of peeling back all of your onions, all the layers of your onion, looking
Yeah.
at the unsavory aspects of yourself and saying, I'd like to change this. This isn't me. I don't like this anymore.
Right.
And I want something different.
Yeah. For me, I felt like I was drowning. And I've heard other people talk about that they felt like they were swimming with clothes on. And, that's how I felt. I felt like I was drowning. And I'm like, well, but why? How am I drowning? What am I drowning? You know what I mean? Because and also you mentioned the different things that we don't look at, but also we curate a life sometimes online, right? But that doesn't mean that we're happy. And that doesn't, if we can curate, and I know you had kind of done that kind of thing too, in a previous blog and stuff, and I'm not saying that you did anything wrong. What I'm saying is when we curate a life, sometimes I think we're trying to train our brain too to go like, look, everything's great. Aren't we doing great? But sometimes that's not great, is it?
Mhm. No, that's absolutely true. And one of the things I had to come face to face with myself on is I was wrong. I
Yeah.
was wrong.
Yeah.
I tried, so hard to convince myself that I was not wrong,
Yeah.
but I was. Eventually, I came to the realization that I was wrong,
Yeah.
because I had created a blog. So my husband and I, we live on a farm, right? So there's cows in my backyard, lots of acres around our house and everything, tractors everywhere, yada yada.
Yeah.
And so I had decided, I don't know, early 30s. I'm going to start a blog, right? Blogging was becoming really big. I'm going to start a blog and I'm just going to write about family and farming and food because I love to cook. We had little kids at the time. And so I had created a blog, a website, with a very famous trademark name.
Mm.
It's a nickname,
Okay.
but nevertheless, I was using
Yeah.
another company's very
Okay.
famous trademark name. And it took a few years for them to discover me. And that was after my following had grown, a little bit bigger. And I was becoming a little more well known, a little bit easier maybe to search and find. And so, yeah, I was served some cease and desist papers.
Oh,
And I had, of course, thought at the beginning, like, this is just ludicrous. It's a nickname for heaven's sake.
right.
What's the big deal here? I'm not making any money. Actually, my blog is costing me money, you
Right.
know? So I didn't think it was any big deal. And so I hired a lawyer, so that I could keep my blog name,
Oh my
my
God.
website name. And we fought for like 8 months over this name. And in the end, it just cost so much money. It was a lot of just tragedy on our family. I was under a lot of stress. I couldn't eat. I was losing weight. I sunk into a depression. It got to the point where I realized I just absolutely hated myself and what I had done to my family, putting us at that risk,
Uh-huh.
of a lawsuit. And so that was my rock bottom moment. I had just thought one day, you know what? I think they'd all just be better off without me.
Oh my gosh.
And that was really terrifying for me to have that realization. And you hear, like people say things such as, they hear an inner voice, or they have like an inner calling that tells them what to do. I literally did.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
would never have believed it, but I did. I had a
Right.
voice in my head that said, the children will be the ones to find you first.
Oh,
And I knew as a mother, you cannot unsee.
right.
You cannot unsee that. The children would walk in fresh off the school bus, excited to tell me about their day, and they would have found their mother dead in her closet by her own hand. And
Right.
that is not something I wanted my children to live with.
Right.
So I realized I need some help. I need some serious fucking help. And so I called a hotline. I called a hotline number because I felt like I just needed to talk to someone,
Yeah.
And yeah, so it took a while for me, to go through all of the loops that I did, all of the steps that it took for me to heal myself. I started first with therapy and medication. Then I left therapy and just started, reading and learning and doing all of the research I possibly could on just about everything possible in this world,
Right.
honestly. I just kept following the breadcrumbs and uncovering things about myself in the process.
I really
And one
love
of
that.
those,
I'm sorry to
yeah,
interrupt you. I love that. I
that's
love that you
okay.
said that because I thought that was important because I love that you were saying you were following the breadcrumbs because that's the way we do. And I've had so many therapists tell me that. Get curious. Why
Mhm.
did that come up for you? Why did that thing? And who cares if you don't know? Just go read about. I read about so many things and I get a nugget. And that's what I always hope with this podcast. It's like someone may not have lived on a farm and had, wanting to go into a mental hospital. No, none of this. but you're going to get a nugget out of this. You know what I mean? And so I love that. I love that idea of following the breadcrumbs, being curious, because what is our goal? And our goal is to heal ourselves and to live, right? That's the ultimate goal you had, was I want to live and
I wanted to live.
not just
Yeah.
survive.
Right. I wanted to live. I wanted to grow as a person. I wanted to realize what had taken me to this place.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I had uncovered in the few years after, the breakdown, was that I was wrong. Obviously, I spoke about that already, but it's that I had been living. And the reason I created that blog,
Yeah.
was to people please. I was living for other people. I was
Yeah.
showcasing, our beautiful little picture perfect family
Yeah.
for other people's approval.
Oh,
That was the reason I was doing it. And it comes from my childhood conditioning, from my desire to want to please my father because he wasn't, around very much.
oh,
So
yes.
that's where I started uncovering things. And it was just like light bulb moments, like, wow, this is all making so much sense. Like, I obviously would not really want to go through all of that. But now
Right.
that I have gone through all of that, I can see how everything was put into place in divine timing for me to learn and for my soul to grow and for me to become a better person for my children, for my family.
Yes. Oh my gosh, the legacy you're leaving and the difference you're making just because you unraveled that. And that's how I feel like I'm unraveling so many things, and I'm like, it's whatever's going on in my family and my generational stuff. I just need it to stop here because it's just too much all the time. Everybody's, traumatized by whatever, and I'm like, I'll just be the one that uncovers everything. And sometimes that can be really hard, but like you said, you're doing this for your children and the joy that you're having, and then also helping other women, right? So now you're having a purpose, and that's just interesting. I have uncovered those kinds of things too. It's like, why was I doing this? Laura has a pattern. It's like, we all do it for a reason, but it's good to kind of look and see, why were we doing this, right?
Mhm.
Um, and then, so you learned about during this time when you were uncovering all these things, what about you talked a little bit about like health issues and learning about complex trauma. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so while I was in my recovery phase, and I still actually consider myself in recovery from that traumatic experience of having that rock bottom moment.
Yeah.
But what I had realized is that I, I had so much work to do,
Yeah.
so much work. And I'm sorry, I just had a message come through and it
Sure.
kind of distracted me.
That's okay. We
I
can
need to
pause.
yes, I need to turn my phone off
We,
because I didn't realize it was on. Can you
okay.
ask the question again? Because it really threw me off there.
Sure. That's not a problem. Okay. Pause. So we had talked before that while you were doing your healing, you uncovered like a lot of health issues and, due to your, childhood trauma. And then you also learned about complex trauma, complex PTSD. Tell me a little bit about that when you were healing.
Yes, exactly. So the few years after I had my rock bottom moment, I was in that recovery phase and I was having some health issues where I still wasn't feeling well. I was very fatigued. I had I would just call it like a brain fog. I couldn't really focus on things. I was really confused a lot of the time. My hair was falling out.
Wow.
I went to my doctor and I was saying things like, I don't know what's happening here, but if this is growing old, I don't want it. Like,
Right.
we need to figure something out here.
Yeah.
She did some thyroid testing
Mm.
on me and realized I had thyroid disorder. And actually, I had such huge nodules on one side of my thyroid that they wanted to remove it.
Wow.
And so I started, like follow those breadcrumbs. I was
Yeah.
curious about this, started learning everything I possibly could about thyroid, and it kind of led to chakras and learning about the different throat, and I learned about the
Yes.
throat chakra, and it led me to have this belief, this understanding that I think this part of my body was so blocked for so many
Oh,
years. I wasn't able to speak my mind and say what I wanted because of the
yes.
family I grew up in. It was just be quiet, be a good girl, kind of
Yeah.
thing. I had kept that up through college, I didn't really speak my mind about things. I just did what was expected of me, got married and started having children and just played the good little wife role and all of that, which I mean, I'm not taking anything away from my husband and children. I absolutely
Right.
love my family, but I was playing a role.
Yeah.
And in that role, I had silenced my voice. I had not used my voice. So I feel like my my thyroid, my throat chakra right here
Yeah.
was literally dying,
I
and
believe it.
it needed to be removed. And it made so much sense to me
Yeah.
how everything is connected.
Yeah.
Everything is literally connected. And so now I have half of a thyroid and I'm on medication, for that now the rest of my life.
Right.
It's just wild how everything comes together and everything is connected from childhood all the way up through adulthood. Everything you've been through means
Yes.
something and it ends up becoming something.
And I was reading The Body Keeps the Score. So I don't know if you've read that, and it does talk about that, the pains that we're feeling, the things that we're feeling. And as I was doing my healing work, I called up my friend who does the media for my podcast. And I said, did I really start a podcast? Because no one would ever listen to me in childhood. And she's like, yeah, you sure did.
Wow. That's
You're
exactly my thoughts. Yeah. I was like, I need to use my voice now. I'm going to start
Yes.
talking. Mhm.
Right. And it's so interesting, right? Because who knows who we were? I feel like this is always who I was, but then I just, because I remember from all of my life, really, no, be quiet. Oh, you're really loud. That was kind of my nickname. And all the time being told to be quiet, be quiet, be quiet. And then marrying somebody who was like, yeah, you need to be quiet. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, it makes so much sense. And
See?
I'm
It
talking
absolutely
globally
does.
about anything I want.
Right. Yes.
No one
Because
can
that's
shut
where
me
we're
up.
at. That's where we're at right now.
That's right. Exactly. No, it's true. And that's why I like that idea of being curious and following the breadcrumbs to what's going on in our life, because if things are happening and maybe people don't believe, but I've read so many articles about this whole thing, and this whole body keeps a score. It's true. There are places in your body and they mean something, that are in pain and they're crying out to have you heal those places. Um, so, don't be scared, everybody. Just do it's okay.
Yes, the mind body connection is real. It is real.
Yes.
I've done a lot of reading now and learning about somatic healing
Yeah.
and how movement can help heal the body from traumatic experiences. And, I truly do feel that I do have complex PTSD
Yes.
from my environment.
Yes.
Being raised in childhood, I was the youngest of four children. My dad was a Vietnam veteran. He's deceased now. But
Yeah.
it was just a very quiet household, I would say. Everyone was always kind of walking around in eggshells around dad,
Yeah.
never wanting to set him off because he was a little bit, agitated when he was home, but he worked away a lot. And so
Hmm.
when he was gone, it was like the house had a little more ease and peace. But then when he was home, we were all a little bit on edge.
Yeah.
And when he was gone, my brother, who's the oldest of us four, he's the oldest, and then there's us three girls. So he had, somehow decided he was going to take on, the man of the house role, right?
Okay.
But I really think that he is a narcissist. I think that I've done a lot of reading on narcissistic
Yeah.
personality disorder. I follow Dr. Ramani all
Yes.
over on social media.
She's
She's
great. Yeah,
fantastic.
she's fantastic.
And I've learned so much about narcissists that I really truly believe my brother is a narcissist. And so having been raised in a narcissistic environment,
Yeah.
and then also in an environment with, a veteran who I believe had PTSD himself
Right.
that was undiagnosed and untreated, it's no wonder I became such a quiet, people pleasing person,
Right.
always seeking the approval of other people my entire life, so
Yes.
it all just makes so much sense.
It really does. And then are you finding, because I'm finding this, so I want to talk about it. I'm finding as I'm healing, people were like, oh, well, who's Laura 2.0 going to be and stuff like that. And I've had a couple of things. I've had a couple of Laura 2.0 moments of like, yes, this is the new me. But then I've also had these other moments where I'm like, you know what? I've always been this way, but I just didn't. Now I don't have anyone next to me, or I don't have society because I'm not listening to that as much, or I don't have, say, family telling me, hey, you might like to do that, but please be quiet about it. Do you feel
Mhm.
like, what do you feel like you're uncovering? Do you feel like you're uncovering a new person, or do you see signs of when you were in childhood and this is who you are, but now you have more freedom?
I feel like I'm uncovering the fearless side of myself.
Yeah, that's
I
awesome.
think I always had it, but I kept it hidden.
Yeah.
I didn't allow her to come out. And now that I have unsubscribed from a lot of things, such as a relationship
Oh, we're frozen. Hold on. We got to pause here. We're frozen.
relationship with my
Okay, hold
brother.
on. We got, hold
And
on.
so,
Hold on. We froze.
oh
Uh,
no,
you, one or both of us froze. So, okay, so we have to go back to, and I was already telling my team. So, okay, so go back to, you were uncovering your true self. Unfortunately, you cut out right after that. So,
okay. Yeah, I feel like I am embracing being fearless now. I think I always
yeah,
had that quality within me, but I kept that side of me hidden. And
yes,
now I'm letting her out. I'm letting the
yes.
fearless side of me out. And it started with that idea of unsubscribing from things. So the first thing I unsubscribed from was a relationship with my narcissistic brother. He's no
Okay.
longer part of my life. I have no contact with him at all.
Hmm.
Him with my children, my husband, nothing.
Okay.
And so that was the really big first fearless step I took.
Yeah.
And I think every time you do something a little bit scary and you embrace that fearlessness in yourself,
Yeah.
the next time you're going to do something that might be a little more scary, it doesn't feel that scary. Like I
Right.
used to feel this like electric shock in my, like someone was jolting me with,
Yes.
the paddles that you shock
Right.
someone having a heart attack with. Like whenever I was about to do something scary, I would feel that like shocking sensation in my chest. And I very rarely get that anymore.
That's
Very
awesome.
rarely.
Yeah.
I'm a very fearless person. I've decided to just embrace that part of myself and stop being the quiet little people pleasing woman
Yeah.
and just say what I want, when I want, and how I want. And if people take it one way, that's fine.
Uh-huh.
If they take it another way, okay too. It doesn't really matter to me
Right.
because their perception of me is not going to alter my perception of me.
That is so good. It's true though, when we're learning to set boundaries, and I was actually talking about this, like so many people think, and as a former people pleaser, I feel the same way. I used to think, oh my gosh, boundaries, I have to tell people what to do. And as a people pleaser, you're never going to tell anybody what to do, but instead it's loving yourself enough to say, hey, these are the choices I will make if you continue that behavior.
Yeah.
And that might mean pulling away from your family or a holiday event or whatever. Um, because I've had to make some of those big decisions too. But you're right. What other people are thinking, I always say, what other people think of me is none of my business.
Mhm.
Because it's not going to
Absolutely.
have any effect on my life. As far, look, I'm not going to walk around being a jerk.
Mhm.
And me just saying that right now is actually a trauma response because me having to explain myself. But what I'm saying is, if you know me, I'm a decent human being.
Mhm.
And if
Mhm.
you don't like what I'm doing, that's not my problem.
Yeah. The analogy I like to use is being a doormat. And
Yes.
I feel like part of me always knew that I needed to correct that behavior in myself
Yeah.
because so we have, my husband and I have three children, and the middle one is a girl. And from the moment she was born, I knew I was going to raise her to be a strong woman. I
Yeah.
was not going to allow her
Yeah.
to become a doormat.
Yeah.
And so she was already spicy and feisty. And I just harnessed and kind of cultivated that in her.
Yes.
Like you said, she's not a jerk. She's strong-willed. She knows what she wants and she doesn't let anybody tell
Yeah.
her anything different or what to do. And, she's a very strong and independent 18-year-old woman. And I'm very proud of her
Yeah.
because that was not me at 18 at
No,
all.
God, no,
Not at all.
no.
So I feel like I always knew that I needed to correct that in myself. And I started by doing it with my daughter, by allowing her spicy spirit to flourish,
Love that.
even as a little youngster.
I
I never
love
wanted to
that.
squish that.
I love that because some people might say, like, oh, she's strong willed. You better, knock that out of her kind of thing. I was having a conversation with my son who's 25, and he was saying how he goes, I think I'm a little bit stubborn. And I go, yeah, you've been called stubborn over your life. I go, you know who calls you stubborn? People who want to manipulate you.
Yeah,
People who
absolutely.
want to have you do something that maybe you don't want to do, people who want you to participate in something that maybe you don't want to do and you stand your ground. Yeah, those people will call you stubborn. And he's like, yeah. Because I go, I hate that word stubborn because it depends on who it's coming from. And even me, even if I said about myself, yeah, I can be stubborn, I'm not being stubborn. I have set convictions. I've set boundaries. Here are my convictions and boundaries, and so if you think I'm being stubborn, it's only people who are feeling or who want to manipulate who are going to think that. Don't you
Right.
think?
Absolutely. I've been told I'm ruining my family because there are, aunts and uncles and my mother,
Yeah.
they all have mixed feelings about the relationship I decided to terminate with my
Yes.
brother.
Yes.
And it's like, you know what? That actually has nothing to do with you guys. So your opinion isn't valid to me.
Yes.
If you think I'm ruining this family, then I will just unsubscribe from a relationship with you as well. So
Yeah.
I've done that.
Yeah.
I've deleted aunts and uncles out of
Yeah.
my phone, off of Facebook or whatever. And I'm
Yeah.
like, you know what? I can live my life perfectly fine without you. My life does not need you in it, you know?
It's so true. And so, I've had so many conversations on this podcast, and I've learned a lot in this last 18 months about families and having boundaries with family because we do, I think in society, I have had friends who are like, but that's your family member. Why would you not
Yes.
talk to them? And I'm
He's
like,
your only brother. Why would you do that?
yeah, it's like, but it's toxic and it makes me sick. So I'm not
Yeah.
interested in having it. I'd like to unsubscribe. So, speaking of unsubscribed, which is your podcast, tell me what you talk about on there. What kinds of things? Are you talking about stuff like this?
We talk absolutely. We talk about so many things, and I've interviewed so many really interesting women.
Yeah,
Honestly, it is phenomenal
that's cool.
how many great stories are out there and really interesting careers and
Yes.
just the women, yeah, that I talk to. It's usually our conversation revolves around, you know, what do they do now? What got them to that
Yes.
point?
Yes.
Just everything about it. It can be about motherhood, raising children,
Ooh.
careers, families,
Yeah.
relationships, anything. Like just
Yes.
yesterday, I was interviewing a naturopathic sleep doctor, and
Interesting.
her main message was, I want women to unsubscribe from the belief that they have to do it all in 24 hours. Like, you need to take your sleep seriously. You need
Yes.
to take care of your body
Yes.
and prioritize your health instead of just putting more things on your plate and cleaning house or working into the wee hours, bringing
Right.
work home from the office, yada, 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 and
Yeah.
only getting 4 or 5 hours of sleep a night. Eventually that's going to harm your health. So
It
that was
really does.
her main message yesterday. It's just fascinating. Absolutely
That
fascinating.
sounds really interesting and really help excuse me, really helpful. That's the thing is unsubscribing right from those societal norms or pressures that we think. And sometimes like it's just the information that's out there and somehow we think here, have it all and do everything right this second. And it's like no. So I started a new kind of a online coaching thing with a group of women. It's a very small group and it's very like the coach is actually giving us certain focuses. And one of the things was how I start my day and how I end my day. And do you know, last night I actually slept really well after having this coaching with these ladies, having the coach say, this is what you're going to change tonight. And this is what you're going to change in the morning. And look, it's so funny. I say that, and I know some people are probably thinking, I don't want anybody to tell me what to do. Well, I went into this coaching program with intention that someone was going to tell me what to do because you have to uh, well, and be really saying you're offended about things or having being offended about things is telling the world, I don't know how to manage my emotions. I need you to do it for me.
Mhm.
So that's why it's like it's okay to be told what to do. I paying this woman money to sit in a group for her to say like, here's how to better your life because I got curious about
Mhm.
why I was so sad about certain things when I feel like I've accomplished so much, right? We can get in that. So that's another thing to look at. That's another curiosity. It's like, am I really happy? Can I really survive off of 4 hours? That's not a good idea. It's going to harm you, right?
Definitely, definitely. I mean, like, Ariana Huffington wrote a book, I don't know, maybe 8, 10 years ago, called The Sleep Revolution. And the basic premise of her book is, as a society, we are unsleeping ourselves to death.
Yes.
And I think even more women are doing that because we have a full-time job all day long,
Yeah.
and then we pick up the kids from school or whatever, and we still have a full-time job all night long.
Yeah. Yeah.
And not all husbands, partners, boyfriends,
Right.
fiancés, whatever, not
Yes.
all of them help and share the load at home.
Right.
So they might have a full-time career as well, but then after work, they go and meet their buddies for happy hour, or they go golfing, or they're part of a bowling league or
Yeah.
whatever. And then they come home and they expect dinner on the table, and, the children to be doing their homework, and
Right.
the laundry is folded, and, whatever,
Right.
the bathroom is clean, and all of those things. Well, you know what? Women are just unsleeping themselves to death because they're taking those hours when they should be sleeping, and
Right.
instead they're doing all of these other household tasks.
Yeah. Living on my own for the first time in, frankly, my life, it's a pleasure to go to bed and go, I'll do those dishes tomorrow or
Yes.
whatever, right?
Yes.
It's those kinds of things, but that goes back to like all the things you were saying, societal pressures, loving ourselves enough to say, I need help. And because the work, I mean, we could do an entire episode on the mental load of women and mothers and all that stuff. That's an entire podcast, really, because it's the untold, that hidden stuff that you're not, that you just can't explain because we're made to be nurturers and we can't help it in a way. But look, we don't have to have everything perfect. I see the dust. I see the stuff I need to vacuum. I don't care because, I mean, you can tell my house is not a pigsty, but I don't care because I need my sleep
Right.
or I'm not going to be any good.
I'll always ask women when they come to me for coaching on
Yeah.
something, usually it revolves around household tasks in some form. And
Okay.
I'll ask them, so when someone just like pops into your house, you don't know they're coming, someone just pops in on you.
Yes.
What do you think and what do you do? And instantly
Okay.
they say, "Oh, I think I should have picked that up." And then I'll
Yeah.
go and I'll clean that real quick, or
Yeah.
I'll load the dishwasher real quick, wipe off the counter, whatever, because they think I'm a bad housekeeper.
Right.
Women never think, "Oh, those people think he's a bad housekeeper." They think he didn't
Yes.
vacuum today. He didn't load the dishwasher today. It's always on the
Yes.
women. And that's just a cultural expectation that women
It
care for the home.
is. Oh
It
my
is.
gosh. You're right. God, that was a surprise even to me when you just said that.
Yeah.
But I do, and I have friends. I go over to their house. I need to stop by to drop something. Oh, I'm so sorry. My house is a mess. Frankly, sometimes it looks pristine. And I'll be like, okay. I'll be like, I'm here for you. I don't care. I don't care that you have dishes in the sink. I'm here for you. And imagine that your friend comes over that you want to connect with, and you're spending time washing the dishes instead of connecting with that friend. So I know, we can't solve all the world's problems right now, okay?
But I like to say to people, if you want to come over and see me, come over anytime. If you want to see a clean
Yes.
house, you better make an appointment so I know.
That's right. Or
I mean,
check my
honestly.
Instagram because I put a picture up when I moved in. After that, forget it. You know, especially
Right.
when you have kids, even at any age, it doesn't matter. There's always something going on, so I'm not worried about it. Um,
Oh,
so
yeah.
so now you're teaching others how to heal themselves holistically.
Mhm.
Tell me about that.
So part of my healing journey, I had pulled the threads,
Yeah.
followed the breadcrumbs. One of the things led me to Nancy Levin is the name of the life coach that I learned from.
Okay.
She has a whole academy where she teaches people, how to become life coaches. And I learned so much about not only myself, but life and other people. It has been phenomenal
That's
learning
awesome.
from her. So I am a certified life coach through Nancy Levin's Life Coach Academy.
Hmm.
And it's groundbreaking, the things that I learned from her, absolutely groundbreaking. And so I use the tools that she taught me to help other women. And a lot of times it's about breaking down our limiting beliefs,
Yeah.
our unconscious commitments, and understanding our core wounds. Like those three things
Yes.
really do drive the majority of our
Yes.
behaviors. And if you
Yes.
understand then what those things are particularly for you,
Yeah.
then you can break down how you have functioned in life, the behaviors and patterns you've exhibited. And then you can figure out if you want to keep them or unsubscribe from them and do something different with yourself. But it's all about learning and being curious and breaking down and understanding there are times you've been wrong. You don't have to hide and make excuses for it.
Yeah.
It's okay to be wrong. It's
Yeah.
okay sometimes. That is,
It is.
we are all everything. We are every emotion, every quality.
Yeah.
So, like for instance, my husband has a real like jolt reaction to the word lazy. He doesn't like being lazy or anyone that is lazy. Well, that is obviously a quality that he doesn't respect.
Yeah.
And there's a reason because
Right.
maybe at some point in his life he was told he was lazy. And so, in order to not be lazy, he now is an overachiever. Like everything just
Right.
makes sense if you can break it down and just understand it.
It's so, I mean, it's so true. And I heard something, well, I think the subconscious is what, 95% of our thoughts or something that we're thinking. And that's my gosh, 95%. That's crazy. And one of my friends said, you know what? Be careful what you're thinking because they might not even be your own thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Because we've had these thoughts from childhood, right? Somewhere along the way, someone said, you're fat or whatever. I always use that example because that's what I was told. And so so that's the one that comes along with me and I
Right.
have to tell it to go away all the time. But those kinds of things, where it's like are those my words when I'm looking in the mirror that I'm saying I'm calling myself fat or do I love myself enough to go, "Hey, shh, 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 quiet."
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
send it away and stop myself.
Your brain will believe whatever it is told,
Yeah.
whether it's you telling it or someone else telling it, your brain will believe whatever it's told. So be very careful of what your brain is being told.
Yes. And that's why
Mhm.
so many life coaches and motivational speakers and all that say be careful how you talk to yourself when you wake up in the morning. What are you saying? And so it feels uncomfortable sometimes, but just saying good morning, beautiful, and things like that to myself, it's just what I need to feed myself. Because
Yeah.
especially if I need that kind of care and I haven't been given that kind of care, I need to give it to myself so I can get to a place where I feel really good about myself. So,
Yeah. I mean, that's called mirror work. Louise
yeah.
Hay wrote an entire book on that
Yes.
about speaking lovingly to yourself while you're looking in the mirror
Yes.
and saying, positive affirmations and whatnot. And it's really tough to stand and stare at yourself. Sometimes,
Yes.
even completely naked, and then you look
Yes.
at your entire body and say loving things to your body. But to
Yes.
look in your own eyes in a mirror and say, I love you. I really, really love you.
Yeah.
That's hard. Some people can't do that for a while. It takes some
No.
time.
One of the things was having a conversation about this the other day from a different coach, and she was talking about how they don't work, the affirmations. And I was like, wait, I got to talk about this because, yes, they do. But
Hmm.
there was a missing piece that we hadn't talked about. And so we brought the threads together. We figured it out was that if you're not doing any other work, it might take you a little longer. But if you're doing this other work, right, where you're seeing a therapist, a coach, and all these other things, doing this holistic work, um, these affirmations, they're going to put all the pieces to it helps you put the pieces together. But I kind of understood her point that sometimes it's just the affirmations. It might take you a while because it's hard. Our brain doesn't want to believe it. We have to trick our brain.
Well, we have to bring a certain level of understanding to ourselves. So, for instance, if I were to look at myself naked in the mirror and say,
Yeah.
"Yeah, I really love you, thighs. Your thighs. Those are the most beautiful thighs I've ever
Yeah.
seen." I might not really believe that, okay? Because
Yes.
I have
Yeah.
seen some other thighs that look better than mine. All
Right.
right, let's just be honest.
Right.
But if I say something like, those thighs are really strong, and
Yes.
that's why you are a really good yoga instructor, is because you have really strong thighs. You can
Yes.
warrior like nobody's business.
Right.
That I can believe.
Right.
So it's
Yes.
all about just framing the way you speak to yourself in a way that you will believe it too, because it is true.
Yeah.
But like I said, I don't probably have the most beautiful thighs in the world. I've seen better thighs than mine, but I do have strong thighs that are capable of doing a lot of things.
Right. And I do try to do those kind of things like, this body gave life and you're strong. You picked up that whatever on your own and, those kinds of things. And I just try to say those kinds of things. It does feel a little uncomfortable, but I work on it because I'm a words person. I didn't get that. I don't always get that around me, so I live off of that. Whoever wants to give me words, feel
So you're a
nice.
words of affirmation person. That's your
I
love
am.
language.
That's my
There you
thing.
go. Yeah.
That's my thing. And it's funny because I heard someone say that on the love languages, what you want is what you didn't ever
Give.
get.
Yeah.
It's
So
like,
I'm a gifts person. I
oh,
love to give people gifts. I just love gifts.
me
And I
too.
think that's because as a child, we didn't have a lot of money. All
Yeah.
of our expendable money went to dad's beer and cigarette habit.
Yeah.
And so we didn't have a lot of money. And so I was continually let down every birthday and every
Yeah.
Christmas. I never got the gifts that I wanted. And so I'm a gifts person. So I give people gifts. And what's really hilarious is when I was dating my husband and then we got engaged and whatever. He's a fantastic gift giver.
That's
He gives
awesome.
phenomenal gifts. And I remember the first time he bought me a really beautiful necklace. We were married, I don't know, maybe 3-4 years or something. And it was at Christmas time. He bought me this amazing necklace and I opened it up. And I guess I just had like this deadpan look on my face. And he was like, do you not like that? Is it bad? Is it is
Oh.
it is it the wrong size? Is it not good enough or something? And I'm like, no, it's great. I love it. But I had like no emotion because I had kind of
Oh.
been trained in my life to be disappointed anytime I opened something. So I
Yes.
had to go through and explain to him like I'm not used to receiving really nice gifts. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Um, do you want to rewrap it and I'll try this again?
Yes, exactly. Take two.
Right. But yeah, there's just so much understand. Like
Yeah.
it really bothers me when people will say things like, "Oh, blame everything on your childhood." It's not about blaming. It's not
No,
about blaming at all.
it's
It's about
not.
understanding. It's about going
Correct.
back in time
Yep.
and kind of reliving those moments and digging, like mining out the gold and
Yep.
understanding why what happened the way it was and how you reacted and all,
Yep.
all of the things. Like just it's about understanding. It's not about blame at all. I don't blame my mother or my father for anything.
Right.
I'm telling the truth and just saying how things are based on my understanding of it. There's
Right.
no blame attached.
Well, we experienced it too, right? So that's what it is. To me, yeah, I feel the same way. It's like I can't blame. I mean, you can. Go ahead. Feel free to do whatever you want. But I totally get that. Yeah, it's not about blaming. It is about understanding. That's all it's been for me. As I'm uncovering things, it's not like, who can I blame today for this feeling I'm having? That's not what I'm doing. I'm uncovering, like, why am I feeling this way? Oh, okay, this traumatic event happened. And so now this makes sense. And so then I move forward with that and decide. And then you have to decide, right? You decide, am I going to stay in that person's life or am I not? Because that's some people have to make those decisions for sure.
Right. Yeah. Like I don't blame my brother for anything. I think that he has some work to do. He's unwilling to do so because,
Right.
if anyone knows anything about narcissists, they're never
Yes.
wrong and they
No,
have nothing
nothing to
that has
work
to be
on.
corrected.
Nothing.
So yeah, I'm sure that there will never be any change with him because he's absolutely perfect. But yeah, I do wish that he would go back and look into his childhood and
Yeah.
see what happened to him, what, caused that narcissistic personality to develop. What
Yes.
was it? And then maybe do the work to undo that, to heal the relationship with his sisters, to heal the relationship with his own daughters.
Yes.
These are all things that he's just decided aren't worth it because he's wrong and or he is right and the rest of us are all wrong.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, that's fine. If you want to
Yeah.
function in that way, that's fine. There's no blame attached. It's just I'm unsubscribing from this relationship. I
Well,
don't
and
want
that's
it
the thing,
anymore.
right? You just were like, okay, well, that was your choice. That was your boundary. You didn't say, well, if you don't go to therapy, whatever. I don't know. Even if you say that, I just laugh because I had somebody give me what I call an ultimatum, and they said, if you don't do this, then we can't have a relationship anymore. And I was like, okay. And I literally walked away, and that's it.
Mhm. Yep.
I was, oh, and there wasn't anything that I could have done differently on my end. I know that I explained it in 3 seconds, but that's what people don't understand. It's a choice that you make with a boundary. And
Yep.
this person told me their boundary. If you don't do this, I won't be here. And I said, okay. And
Yep.
that's all you can do. That's
Yeah.
sort of what happened with my marriage too. It's like if this continues, I can't continue. And I had to be done. Because no, narcissists are always right, everything's perfect. And but if you look around at their life, not on social media, but if you look
Right.
at their real life, you can see Yeah, because my ex doesn't have a relationship with most of his kids and stuff, and so it's whatever
Yeah.
because he's not wrong, so
Everything is about the way it looks to the outside world. They
for
can look
sure.
like the picture perfect family from the
Yeah,
outside, but inside it's absolute monsters. Absolute
yeah.
monsters.
So good thing that we're healing and that you're helping others. I'm thankful for that. So I think we'll end it here. The end. We'll just stop here. So tell everyone where they can see you and get a hold of you, and we'll also put all this information in the show notes.
Great, thanks. So my website is just my name, barbarasiemen.com. And those are also my handles on Facebook and Instagram. It's
Okay,
just
great.
Barbara Siemen. You can just search me that way.
Okay, sounds good. And we'll put everything in the show notes. And that way, if people want to get a hold of you to do yoga or any of the things, do you do anything online?
I do not teach yoga online. It's in
Okay.
studio only, but my life coaching is, of course,
Okay,
over Zoom.
great.
So, I mean, the majority of my clients are not anywhere where I live.
That's perfect. I love it. I think that's one of the best things that came out of the pandemic was all of us being able to connect all over the world over Zoom and be able to run businesses over Zoom, right? I just love it.
Absolutely.
I think it's so great. Well, thank you so much. And of course, guys, if anything resonated with you today, please reach out to Barbara. Leave us comments, nice comments, please. We're words people. Nice comments. And also, of course, Apple and Spotify, please leave a review there. And everything's in the show notes so you can get a hold of Barbara. And Barbara, thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Laura.